Good evening. Welcome to the Thursday, January 22nd, 2026 regularly scheduled City Council meeting. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Orbach.
Here.
Councilmember Westman.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jensen.
Here.
Mayor Morgan.
Here. Would you all join in the Pledge of Allegiance? Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Staff has no changes to the agenda this evening.
Thank you. And a report on closed session?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The City Council met in closed session to discuss the items listed on this evening's agenda. Deliberation occurred. No reportable action was taken. That concludes my report.
Thank you. And additional materials.
For item 7F, staff distributed a memorandum and updated agreement after publication of the agenda packet. 8A, 4 pieces of correspondence were received after publication. 8B, 2 pieces of correspondence received. And item 8A, staff distributed a memorandum with an updated exhibit. All materials are available for online and in-person review at the back of the chambers.
Great, thank you. That'll take us to oral communications by members of the public. Could I get a show of hands of how many might be speaking this evening? Great, all right. Just remember it's on anything that's not agendized this evening, you'll have up to 3 minutes. Welcome.
Welcome. My name is Goran Klopic. I'm an Army veteran. I'm also American. I served overseas. I was stationed in Schweiz, Switzerland, in the mountains where it's very cold. That's not my main purpose why I'm coming here to talk to you about. It's about something that I observed in the past. It's about illegal drug trafficking in Capitola, which happened also on 41st Avenue sometimes, illegal marijuana distribution. Marijuana is illegal by federal law. That's the law. There's a pantry there on the 41st Avenue that is selling marijuana, you know? So we have to reconsider what we're doing here, especially you as politicians, what you're deciding upon. I don't know if some of you smoke marijuana, because I was also one time young and doing things like that, but I was working later in law enforcement, so I know exactly what that can lead to. You know, marijuana leads sometimes to harder drugs. Thanks very much for listening. Take care.
Thank you. Hi, welcome.
Keith Cahaly. Yeah, I'm asking the council to pull consent item 7F this evening. A couple of reasons is, number one, this contract's incomplete. As part of the beach festival, we've been presented with it, and part of that was included in it was there were going to be fees to be named future once the city council decides what they are. And number two, the contract is punitive because there's requirements for liability insurance within the contract that exceed currently, for example, what the beach festival has would almost double our annual liability cost for the beach festival. And considering all we're trying to do is rent the room that has been provided free by the city for the past X number of years, I think that's excessive. In kind of summary, let's see, let me switch over here. I think it's concerning that rather than reevaluating internal spending and staffing decisions, the financial burdens being shifted onto the nonprofits through incremental fees, overstaffing and associated expenses, including benefits and overhead, significantly increase the city's cost. Exploring alternative approaches, such as hiring experienced consultants to manage events, could reduce expenses, improve efficiency, and eliminate the need for additional staffing and related long-term cost. At present, it appears the city is seeking revenue from the very organizations that have consistently contributed to the vitality of Capitola. A more effective and equitable solution would be a careful review of the event budget and spending priorities with the emphasis on working smarter, working with the nonprofits, and as opposed to putting additional strain on this group. So I think that, as I say, I'd like you to pull that and then add to it an evaluation of your attitude, the city's attitude, or at least the city manager's attitude towards nonprofits. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Mick Ruth. Councilmember Orbach owes the city an explanation about her role in formulating the letter that was recently sent to the HCD. There's no doubt that she had some involvement in it, and despite any denials she may make, I think that involvement will exist. It's one thing to sit up there in a public forum and disagree with other council members and staff, but it's quite another thing to stab them in the back, disrupt negotiations over the mall development, and attempt to harm the financial solvency of Capitola. It appears Councilmember Orbach prioritizes her and her husband's grievances over the best for what's best for Capitola. This is not the first time she's caused problems in this city, and it's no doubt it won't be the last. She has proven to be untrustworthy, and she no longer deserves to sit on the city council.
Hi, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Morgan and members of the Capitola City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is L'Oreal Weitzel, and I am the founder and executive director of Aruca Project, a nonprofit here in Santa Cruz County that specializes in the rescue and restoration of sex trafficking survivors of all ages and backgrounds. We work in the realms of prevention and education, active rescue and recovery, and aftercare resources. I'm here tonight because human trafficking is not a distant issue, and it is not someone else's problem. It is happening here in Santa Cruz County, and it has happened here in the city of Capitola. Human trafficking often doesn't look like what we expect or what we see in movies. It doesn't involve chains or dark alleyways. More often, it looks like online grooming, coercion, manipulation, and exploitation happening quietly, sometimes in places we know and love. Survivors are often hidden in plain sight, afraid to speak, unsure if anyone will believe them. A proclamation recognizing Human Trafficking Prevention Month is not just symbolic. It is a public statement that says the city is aware, paying attention, and committed to protecting its community. It tells survivors that this is a safe place to come forward. It tells parents, educators, and young people that prevention begins with awareness. And it tells traffickers that the city is not looking away. As a survivor-led organization working directly with victims, we respond when someone escapes trafficking and ask the most terrifying question they can ask: where do I go now? That moment right after escape is when survivors are most vulnerable. Awareness at the city level saves lives because it helps neighbors, businesses, and first responders recognize the signs and know where to direct someone for help. Capitola is a beautiful, close-knit community, and precisely because of that, leadership matters. When a city acknowledges a problem publicly, it opens the door to education, prevention, and collaboration. Silence, even when unintentional, can allow exploitation to continue to go unnoticed. Tonight, I want to respectfully encourage the city of Capitola to consider issuing a proclamation recognizing Human Trafficking Awareness Month for January, whether now or in the future, and to stand alongside other cities in our county who have chosen to publicly acknowledge this issue, including Santa Cruz County, the city of Santa Cruz, the city of Watsonville, the city of Scotts Valley, and their law enforcement agencies. Awareness is one of the most powerful tools we have. It costs nothing, but it can mean everything to someone who's suffering in silence. Thank you for your time, for your service, and for your continued commitment to the safety and well-being of this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Natasha, and I'm the Deputy Director of Aruca Project. We are proud to be survivor-led, and I am that survivor. I was raised here, I went to school here, I was kidnapped into sex trafficking at 19 years old. I was trafficked all over the country, including Santa Cruz County. After I was rescued, there were no resources here for my family and I. My journey was a very difficult one to get to, but it didn't have to be that way. I felt alone, and no matter how much support I had, I knew no one could understand the pain I was in. I was called a liar and told I do not look like a victim. Please tell me what a victim looks like. Yet I still publicly stood up and told my story to anyone who would listen. I fought for 17 years to bring my trafficker to justice. 17 years of being told that did not happen to you and you deserved it. Having people investigate me to try and prove I was lying. I would be vindicated the day that my trafficker was sentenced to 174 years in prison on my birthday. Little did he know the day I was born would be the day of his reckoning. It was always going to be me. It had to be me. And I will not stop speaking out until my last dying breath. He is currently known as the most prolific sex trafficker Central California has ever seen, with an estimated hundreds of victims from this county and surrounding areas. I want to be very clear that without law enforcement, my trafficker would have never been caught. They are the real heroes in my story. Justice brings healing and closure, and I will not allow anyone to tell a victim otherwise. Law enforcement can do what we can't. They can bring justice to victims. Aruka Project proudly supports and works very closely with our law enforcement partners. I am proof that law enforcement is here to help and believe victims. If I had a place like Aruka Project to walk with me on my journey, I know for a fact I would have made different choices and would have begun my life of healing a lot sooner. One of the most healing moments for a victim is realizing you aren't alone, that there are people just like you who know what you are going through. Aruka Project is tirelessly working to restore the lives of these victims, managing to rescue them weekly on a limited budget, offering resources, support, and justice. If you are uncomfortable with my story, you need to start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. We are not going away until every child in this community and surrounding areas are protected. I was once that child. I am someone's child. I deserved to be protected and believed. My story is real, and if it happened to me, it can happen to you or someone you love. How blessed Santa Cruz County is to have a place like Aruka Project to protect this community, offering a safe place for every victim and their families. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's incredibly moving. Thank you. My name is Linda Smith, and I'm a former planning commissioner and longtime resident of Capitola. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come in and speak tonight. I'm here because of a complaint that was filed with the state-level housing enforcement authority by a member of the family of one of our council members. At first, I couldn't believe it, and I still don't understand the why of it. Having served the city for 8 years as a planning commissioner, I'm well aware of the difficulties that are presented when working through housing issues in Capitola. We recently saw staff respond to community concerns over transparency by offering to us in a town hall meeting details of the state mandates, our housing element, and how we were working diligently and in good faith with the developers on the mall project. Excuse me, I'm out of breath. We know that meeting state mandates is going to bring additional density to our town, and staff is working overtime to mitigate the impacts on our economic survival while meeting state mandates for housing and the financial requirements of the developer. This is not an easy task. Most of the public do not know enough details to understand the significance of this complaint. In contrast, the complainant in this situation is a working professional in the field and well aware of the impacts. There are multiple legal actions ongoing in the county because of issues with state mandates in their housing element. Our staff, I understand, has kept us compliant so that we don't have to worry about builder's remedy. That could change. Maintaining the good faith relationships between our staff, state HCD staff, the city council, the coastal commission, and the community is a very complicated job. It takes knowledge, time, effort, and skill to negotiate an end result for a project of this size that's a winning solution. I believe our community development staff is professional and skilled to achieve this result for Capitola. Throwing a wrench into that process by filing a complaint with the state without even attempting to resolve the concerns directly is harmful to all of us. To let it go without any public comment from the community would be shameful. That's why I'm here. Just the time and energy it takes to respond to this complaint is a waste. I don't know what the motivation for the taking of this action was. I'm saddened that the complainant chose this path to exercise his rights, and I hope that HCD staff can see through the situation, recognize the ongoing good faith efforts of the city, and continue to support the negotiations of this project. I also know I don't want anyone to sit on our city council that would work against the best interests of the city and its residents in this way or condone this type of activity. We should consider that as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Shu. I live at 702 Orchid Avenue. I'm here again tonight to talk to the council about the proposed walkway behind my home. I'm just asking for someone to please consider us. One night I was at a meeting here and someone came forward with a referendum or a planning that was going to be voted on by you guys. And they were talking about putting up a sign on the wharf, and they had 2 locations, and they said, but if we put it in this spot, it's going to block the view of the people that live at the Venetian of the ocean. And no one from the Venetian was there, but they considered the Venetian and its residents before voting on where to place that sign, and ultimately chose not to block the view of the Venetian residents. I have not had that type of consideration from the school district in their implementation and installation of their new artificial turf field. And I'm just trying to find someone who will consider myself, my neighbors, in installing a walkway. The planning department told us to contact the school because they are the ones responsible for installing it. But I'm here to tell you that the school doesn't care about me. They didn't reply to my email, and they told me before they put up the scoreboard that they were not putting anything higher than 6 feet at our fence line. And we now have an enormous scoreboard looming over our backyard. Additionally, when they came to you guys for the property swap, they implied and represented that there was an established walkway behind our home, and that is just false. I sent pictures that shows that this is not true. They were just trying to get what they wanted so that they could get their field. They don't care about Capitola. They didn't bother to do an environmental study or get a coastal development permit before they started development. They didn't comply with CEQA. Who knows what's happening with this field and the nylon polyester blades of grass? We don't know what's happening because they just don't care about the city. The other thing they don't care about is the students. They've just given public access to the backside of their field all day, every day. Please take us into consideration as this pathway moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
My name is Lynn Shu. I also live at 702 Orchid Avenue. I'm here to ask the council members here to reconsider construction of the walkway between New Brighton Middle School and residents of the Cliffwood Heights neighborhood. Not only does this walkway provide access, 24 access, but it also provides access to the school from the field area, not direct access. There's a see-through fence, but the fencing provides access for the public to look into the field. And also, I mean, I know people hop that fence to utilize the athletic field on the weekends. So I mean, as a public safety issue, I think this access is an issue. And even though the city council may think that, this is the responsibility of the school district, because the school district is going to take on the financial responsibility and construction of the walkway, it actually is city property. So what I'm saying is, if you consider that this is city property, if you think ahead and imagine that there could be some issue with students coming from the walkway, it's not school responsibility, it's city responsibility. The issue is, I mean, any harm coming to any of the students at New Brighton Middle School stemming from or originating from the walkway. In any case, that's all I wanted to talk about, is to have the city council reconsider having the walkway constructed, providing access from Cliffwood Heights to Monterey Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Cheryl, and I'm basically here to ask you to keep the housing element local. We are under siege by the laws of the state, where we need our council to be strong and united, not just on housing, but other things that can be coming down the line. We have, at a state level, the remedy for developers and industry. I've sat in this council meeting and heard threats by the industry, and this is a complicated, delicate relationship between the local legislation, you, and the state. We need clear, decisive direction. And from what I understand, we've just been undermined by a community letter that sounds like it's a professional planner that submitted something to the state that is putting us in jeopardy at our local level. I don't know what you all can do about it, or the community, but we talk about transparency, and we need more of it. And I also want to say, I so appreciate the public meetings that we've had. There's been great care taken. I've seen the hard work that's gone into this. I've been to every meeting I can go to understand the complicated nature of the housing element. It's been explained by our city workers, by council members. So please protect our city. We're less than 10,000 people. They're looking at putting housing into the thousands. So we need people that understand Capitola to make the zoning changes that need to happen for affordable housing in our community. We're under siege, and now by our own community. We have letters coming in that can jeopardize our town. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Would anybody else wish to make comment? All right, I'm seeing none, so we'll move on to staff comments, if there's any.
Staff has no comments this evening.
Okay, that'll take us to city council comments. Councilmember Westman?
Hey. I actually have two tonight. The first one is I wanted to let everyone know that I attended the January 14th AMBAG meeting. And the major issue that's going on at AMBAG right now is the Metropolitan Transportation Plan for 2050, which AMBAG needs to adopt by June of this year to allow cities and counties to be eligible to have any federal or state money to do any kind of traffic or transportation improvements. And so they have a draft plan out now, and they're going to have a workshop that's dedicated to Santa Cruz County focus on Tuesday, January 27th. and it's going to be a Zoom workshop. And for anyone who's interested in transportation, you actually have to go on the AMBAG website and register to be able to take part in that discussion. So I encourage anybody who's concerned about what's going on in our county in transportation to take the time to do that, and you'll learn a lot, not only about Santa Cruz, but about our entire region. The second item I had is, we've heard some comments tonight, and I've gotten lots of questions and about the process that the city and the planning commission is using to develop new zoning regulation and objective standards for the review of the Capitola Mall property. As many of you know, a complaint was filed with Housing and Community Development Enforcement Division alleging that the city was not in compliance with state law and our adopted housing element in December. The Planning Commission has been working on developing zoning ordinance amendments and objective standards that will guide any future redevelopment on the Capitola Mall site. These changes have not yet been adopted by the city, and no specific plan has actually been submitted to the city by the developer about what they want to do. To work on the development of zoning changes and objectives, developing zoning changes and objective standards started with a publicly noticed study session by the Planning Commission on October 2nd, 2025. Since then, the Planning Commission has held multiple open meetings, including a community meeting on October 18th and another study session on October 30th. On November 18th, the Planning Commission reviewed the draft zoning ordinance at another public meeting. And again, on December 5th, they looked at the zoning regulations as well as starting to develop objective standards. These objective standards will be used to evaluate any future redevelopment proposal on the mall site. The mall owner has been participating and working with the city. In fact, they submitted lengthy written comments for the December 5th meeting, and the Planning Commission has been considering those and discussing them. The city's working openly with the mall property owners because redevelopment must be financially feasible in order for the mall people to come. If they can't make any money, they're not going to do anything as far as redeveloping that site. At the same time, the community must see meaningful public benefits from the redevelopment on this site. These discussions have taken place within a public process, not behind closed doors, and with full transparency. State law now requires us to have these objective standards, which need to be clear, meaningful, and apply consistency in how we review any development that would come in on that site. The Planning Commission will continue their work. They have another meeting scheduled for February 5th. The commissioners, if they complete that review that night, what they will do is make a recommendation to the City Council, and the draft zoning changes and draft objective standards will be considered by the City Council, probably the second meeting in February. And the City Council is actually the group that will do the final adoption of those rules. I want to thank the Planning Commission members for the many hours they've devoted to working on this at various public meetings, as well as our staff, Katie Herlihy and Sean I never say Sean's name right, Sansano, and our consultants for their professionalism and transparency. Given the complexity of the state laws, we've had Eric Phillips from our city attorney's office present at these meetings to ensure that we are going to be in legal compliance with the new state housing laws throughout this process. All these meetings have been and will continue to be open to the public. Community participation is encouraged and essential. As a council member, I believe transparency is critical when we're setting the rules that will guide future development. These regulations do not approve any specific project. They simply establish a clear, open framework for how future proposals will be reviewed. The Capitola Mall is vital to our city. That's exactly it. It's been the place that has generated tremendous revenue and provided a number of opportunities for us. And whatever happens on the mall site is going to have to, as I said before, benefit the developer and also benefit Capitola. And the purpose of doing these zoning changes and the objective standards is to make certain that that happens in Capitola. So the process is ongoing. I hope that anyone who's interested in the topic will take the time to attend the meetings and participate. We look forward to hearing from everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you very much. First, I just wanted to thank the two speakers. Your powerful remarks were incredible, and thanks for attending tonight for that. Let's see. First thing I'd like to just give an update. I attended the RTC meeting, the most recent one, where the commission gave direction to the RTC staff to look at terminating the contract with the Progressive Rail and look at the RTC becoming the common carrier. And that action was taken at, like I said, the most recent meeting. Also, in connection with the RTC, there will be an upcoming ribbon cutting ceremony for the overpass that will be open up on Capitol Avenue. The date has not been determined yet, but it will be the week of February 16th, and there will be a press release out with the time and all the details. And hopefully, since it is directly, affecting our community, hopefully we have a lot of attendance and appreciation for the hard work for the RTC staff and the contractor of getting that done. I think we all wanted it done faster and quicker, but at least it will be open, and I think our chief will have a better commute coming to work. Also wanted to just highlight, yesterday was a great day in the Capitola Village with the reopening of Taco Bravo yesterday. I went there for lunch. I went home. I got in trouble because my wife wasn't able to go for lunch, and then we went back there for dinner. It was great to see them. They were closed 391 days from the fire, and it's nice to see that they were able to make it through that to a certain degree and reopen the doors and kind of come back to the iconic business down in our village. And I hope that everybody attends, as well as attend to the other business that are down there and support our village. If you don't mind, I'd like to take a couple additional comments and talk about, I'd like to take a couple minutes to talk about and address an issue that was giving me pause, prompting reflection and careful consideration of the impact to our community's trust. I don't usually prepare my comments to read from the dais, but this situation I felt was important for me to speak about directly. First, I want to publicly thank our planning director, Kaylee Hurley, and her staff and the consultants for their dedication to the countless hours they invest in navigating the state housing mandates. These mandates are complex, time-sensitive, critical importance to our community's future. Their work is consistently demonstrated to a commitment to protecting the community's interests, and also to the commitment that, and that commitment has not gone unnoticed. I especially want to acknowledge the department's outreach. As many of you know, I have consistently advocated for transparency, open communication, and bringing our community together over the past year. I have seen a major improvement in the outreach of our city during that period. This is something that I'm deeply passionate about. Our community is supportive in providing affordable housing and doing that part to meet the broader needs of this region. I also believe Capitola community is committed to meeting the state housing requirements while ensuring the process includes genuine community involvement and transparency at the same time. To date, under Katie's leadership, the city has been and continues to dedicate delivering on what commitments with respect to the housing elements. We host community meetings. We discuss the topics in numerous planning commission meetings, city council meetings, and in every setting, the public has given an opportunity for outreach and to speak of the issue. They also are allowed to comment, ask questions, participate. In addition, each council member has an appointee planning commissioner who serves as another point of input and engagement. Katie has personally responded to community emails, and her professionalism in those exchanges has and continues to be outstanding. I want to thank our planning commissioners, Chair Christensen, Vice Chair Nathan Pugh, and also Commissioners Welsh, Howard, and Esty for their dedication and guidance on the commitment to this issue, with full transparency and without an agenda other than the best interests of the city. And finally, the city has remained in direct communication with HDC, keeping them up to date on the status timelines related to the Capitola Mall project, which further reflects this city's good faith effort to communicate clearly and consistently. I wanted to address the concern directly, as we heard about tonight. Despite the extensive outreach and transparency, a complaint was filed at the state level, bypassing local opportunities of engagement to advance an agenda. I understand that people can feel frustrated, unheard. Circumventing the local process does a disservice to our community. It misrepresents the status and the process, which, as of today, has not received any formal action from either the planning department or our city council, and places additional legal and administration burdens on the staff already working under significant time pressures. This is not constructive civil engagement. It's destructive and unnecessary. It adds strain to those who are diligently serving our community. Katie, thank you again to you and your team for operating under the immense time constraints and your professionals to continue to represent our city and integrity. I can only imagine the additional workload now facing your department due to the complaint, as well as the potential additional costs to the city at a time when we're already operating under budget constraints. To our community members, if someone has a concern about the process and other topics, the appropriate place to reach them, to raise them, is here in this chamber. At a public meeting, through direct communication with staff and your elected officials. Each council member is available to hear from members of the community to share their perspective. While frustration and impatience can be understandable, going outside the process to advance an agenda is not how we solve community issues, and it should not be the norm. We can and we should disagree. Disagreement is healthy, but it must be honest, transparent, open, and not self-serving. This is how we move forward together, as one community, respecting both the process and each other. And I would also like to supply this later on this evening, and I'd like to have these comments reflected in the meeting minutes. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Clerk?
I have no comments or updates at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rohrbach? Good evening, everyone. I want to first thank you, ladies, for your courage, your strength, and your resilience. Thank you for sharing your story, for your bravery in the fight for justice, and your advocacy through the Aruka Project. I'm deeply moved by you both. When I worked at a teen clinic in Oakland, Chinatown, I also treated patients who came in week after week for sexually transmitted infections, who later I realized had been sex trafficked. These are Asian teenage girls. Human trafficking can truly happen to anyone. I'd like to request that the city issue a proclamation recognizing January as Human Trafficking Month to increase our community's awareness of this public health issue. Secondly, I just want to say we'll be celebrating the completion of the solar and battery storage project at the Capitola Library this Saturday at 10 o'clock. This endeavor was championed by the Friends of the Capitola Library, thanks to Tony Campbell's leadership and countless volunteers. With approximately $500,000 in funds generated through their used bookstore at the Capitola Mall, they were able to make this long-envisioned improvement a reality. This project is expected to save $30,000 in energy costs annually, and once fully operational, will allow the library to operate as Capitola's first public energy-neutral facility. This is consistent with our strategic priority to achieve healthy families, community, and environment by decreasing our greenhouse gas emissions and leveraging clean, sustainable energy sources. And to respond to the residents who came out and my fellow council members, as a resident of Capitola and a citizen of this country, my husband can exercise his First Amendment rights to criticize his government, just like any of you here tonight. The request for technical assistance that he submitted to the HCD includes his own technical analysis as a land use planner, which I am not. We are two independent adults, and I would not be held accountable for his actions. To be frank, I was not aware that he was going to submit that, and I can't explain his actions. So if any members of the council or any members of the public would like to talk to Matt, please feel free to reach out to him directly. And Madam Mayor, I'd like to pose a few questions to our legal counsel, if that's okay. Sure. Thank you. To Mr. Tran, did my husband break any laws?
I do not have a copy of the reference letter in front of me. I am aware of it. I have reviewed it. And as it relates to the drafting and submission component of it, I'm not aware of any violations. As a resident, he does have First Amendment rights. He can state his opinion, advance a cause, and others also have the right to oppose and disagree. And I would just emphasize that from the city's vantage point, of course, we are viewpoint neutral when it comes to the expression of opinions as is required by the First Amendment.
Okay. Can anyone submit a request for technical assistance to the HCD?
Yes, HCD has I believe it's a portal of sorts. It is available on their website. And I believe they also post copies of requests that they've received.
And is there any content in that letter that was not public knowledge?
Again, I must apologize. I don't have a copy in front of me, but based on my review, the letter referenced materials from a planning commission agenda packet, which is publicly available, and the balance of the letter included the author's opinions.
Okay. I'd just like to end that. If the city and staff are confident that we are compliant with all of the state laws, we should not be concerned about any possible request for technical assistance to the HCD by anyone in this community, regardless of who that person is. Thank you.
I would just like to ask context. As a city attorney, do we provide legal advice to citizens in the city of what they're doing? I thought the question was, I was just confused by the responses back and forth. I mean, I thought the city attorney was staying in line with advising the city legal position on certain issues.
Madam Mayor, if I may. Yes, the city attorney's office does represent the city. I do not and have not provided any advice to the author of this letter. I'm responding to provide some context about, again, the First Amendment issues as it pertains to the city as a government entity.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I would like to thank our two speakers this evening as well. I know you've probably told your story many times, but I'm sure it doesn't ever get easier, and I want to thank you. So I would love to get our proclamation printed up for you guys, for sure. And thank you for spreading awareness. I know it's a dark subject, but it's there. Yes, thank you. I do hope that if anybody's available on Saturday, that they would like to come to the solar panel event. It's at 10 a.m. at the library. I'm super excited. And in a less winded explanation, just to address what has been said, we have been
the city has been informed by HCD that we've received a complaint about the zoning code update at the mall site. Our staff is going to continue to work with HCD. We're going to look into the claims that were made. We're still working with our consultants. We're working to ensure that the new zoning is fully compliant. We also continue to have productive conversations with the mall owners, developers, Merlot Geyer, and that has been positive over the last few months, and we've all been working very hard on it. So I just, we will continue in that direction. I just want that to be clear. All right, so we can move on to consent. There's consent items A, B, C, all the way through F. Anybody can make a
Madam
motion.
Mayor.
Like to move.
I'd like to pull F for further clarification and questions.
Okay, so we will revisit item 7F at the end of the meeting.
Now move 7A to 7E.
And I'll second that.
Great. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And item 8, general government. Start with 8A. Tonight, this is about offshore drilling.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I have a few introductory slides, and then the real experts about offshore drilling, who are not me, will be giving a presentation. Next slide, please. Thank you. So last year, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, or BOEM, in the Department of the Interior, so the federal government, proposed a bunch of offshore leasing sales in the United States, but also 6 specifically off of the coastline of California. During our council meeting here on November 13th, the council requested an update on these actions and also potentially an update to our current ordinance on offshore drilling. Next slide, please. So the city does have a section of municipal code that was adopted in the late 80s related to offshore drilling. Notably, this does not allow for a vote of the people to allow any kind of offshore facilities. In Capitola, some of the ordinances in other municipalities do. At the time, seabed mining was not a particular issue, so that is not included in our current ordinance. Next slide, please. So yesterday, on January 21st, the Commission on the Environment received a presentation from Save Our Shores, who is spearheading some of this outreach for the county. The presentation covered the offshore oil drilling and gas leasing program and the statuses of the ordinance throughout the state. Next slide. A few days after our council meeting in November, the Santa Cruz County and City of Santa Cruz executed an MOU with each other and a professional services agreement with Save Our Shores in order to coordinate and strengthen regional ordinances and oppositions to both drilling and seabed mining. Next slide, please. So with that, we have Save Our Shores here this evening, Dan Hafley and Katie Thompson, to give us a little more information on these actions.
Sorry. Okay. Now it works. We start again. So the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management has proposed 6 offshore oil leases as part of the 5-year plan for offshore oil development that was begun by the president's executive order called Unleashing American Energy, which both covers seabed mining and offshore oil drilling. And the original offshore oil plan included the entire United States. And after East Coast governors asked to be let out of that program, they were. California was asked to be let out of that program, they were not. So now it is down to Alaska, California, and the Gulf of Mexico. We have 2 lease sales scheduled for offshore drilling for the central coast of California, Sonoma to Monterey County, in 2027 and 2029. So this is happening very, very quickly. Next slide, please. So I want to talk a little bit about marine sanctuaries and offshore oil. Offshore oil is governed by something called the OCS Lands Act. National marine sanctuaries are covered by the National Marine Sanctuaries Act. National marine sanctuaries in California, there are 5 of them. They ban offshore oil drilling as part of that act. Under the OCS Lands Act, however, areas are withdrawn from oil drilling, including marine sanctuaries, if the president signs a directive to do this. Unfortunately, and I quote here from the original 5-year plan, the last time this happened was in 2008, July 14th, 2008, when all marine sanctuaries were included in the withdrawal of lands from consideration for offshore drilling. So sets up a conflict between the OCS Land Act and the National Marine Sanctuaries Act. So we have marine sanctuaries that are banned from offshore drilling, and we have an Interior Department that has the OCS Lands Act as its primary statutory authority that thinks that they can drill in these areas. The areas that have received sanctuary status since this presidential directive of July 14, 2008 was signed includes Davidson Seamount, which is part of Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, includes half of Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary and half of Cordell Bank National Marine Sanctuary, also includes the designation of Chumash Heritage National Marine Sanctuary. So this sets up a conflict, and we may see in the next iteration of this plan proposals to drill on or near areas with marine sanctuary status. Next slide, please. So the plan is inconsistent, the offshore drilling plan, with federal and state laws, many of which you can imagine, National Marine Sanctuaries Act, Endangered Species Act, multiple others, including the Endangered Species Act. Under the state law, the California Coastal Act, the Marine Life Protection Act, which sets up marine protected areas, as well as SB 32, which mandates a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. Offshore drilling happens in federal waters. That's what we're talking about here. Different air quality standards, much looser air quality standards. They don't have to comply with the same standards that your car has to, that the old Moss Landing power plant had to. So it does accelerate emissions, accelerates climate change. Next slide, please. Other environmental impacts. So once a lease is bid upon and obtained by an oil company for a 9 square mile tract of land, they need to determine if there is actually, in fact, oil there. And they do this through exploratory drilling or through sonic testing, both of which have incredible impacts. You also have drilling and processing. So when you operate the drill bit, the lubricants that are used there use something called drilling muds, which are routinely thrown over the side and have an impact on the environment. Oil spills, of course. We had the Santa Barbara oil spill in 1969, and many since then. We had the 2015 Refugio oil spill, the American Trader spill off California. Huge impacts, particularly to recreation, tourism, restaurant industry, hugely impacted by oil spills. Onshore impacts, including industrialization, of course, which is the subject of the ordinances, including Capitolas, environmental justice. So these onshore facilities tend to be in areas where people are low income, people of color tend to be impacted more, and of course the acceleration of climate change, which I mentioned before. Next slide, please. So to push back on this, your council will be considering your comments from the city of Capitola. Comments are due tomorrow night at 8:59 p.m. OM will have to consider all comments. They also build a case for us in the event that we wind up in court, which is likely. Also, individuals can write their own comments. So anybody watching this evening or anybody in the audience, you can submit your own comment. It's easy to do. Go to regulations.gov, type in what you see on the screen here, BOEM 2025-0483, and submit your comment. Just click on submit comment, or you can go to savemycoast.org. And we're trying to get as many people to comment as possible. You don't have to be a scientist or an attorney to do this. You could just be somebody who works in a restaurant or has experience with fishing or lives in a seaside community or has other experience with the ocean. You can share your story. And if you have expertise, please share that as well. Next slide, please. So very brief history on the pushback. In the 1980s is when oil drilling became a reality for Central and Northern California. It's been happening for years in Southern California since the 1950s. But to push back against that, then Congress member Leon Panetta would obtain an annual moratorium on funding for offshore oil leasing. So he did this as chair of the budget committee. So they would withhold funds. You couldn't run the Xerox machines. You couldn't travel to implement a leasing strategy to the oil industry. That moratorium lost by one vote in 1985 after a failed attempt at a compromise. And this allowed plans to proceed for offshore oil leasing. Next slide, please. So frustrated by that, Santa Cruz City leaders decided to take action. So in 1985, 82% of Santa Cruz City voters voted to authorize the city to only allow zoning changes for offshore drilling, for onshore facilities for offshore drilling, with a vote of the people. So people had to vote on those zoning changes. Secondly, they voted to spend funds to spread that idea throughout California. Save Our Shores was hired to do that job. I was hired to be that person. Next slide, please. So I did a lot of traveling. This was the 1980s, 1990s. We eventually were able to engage individuals, organizations, and local governments throughout the state. 26 communities signed on from San Diego to Humboldt. That's the blue wall that we talk about. Most of these initiatives were done by popular vote, so people got to vote on these, and that really helped build a movement. And then in 2020, Marin County came on board. That was the 27th ordinance, and this was during Trump's first term in response to the first effort. Next slide. So this is the blue wall. You have some yellow areas that have yet to be gotten to, and Katie will talk about that in a moment. Next slide, please. Capitola's ordinance was approved 5-0. April 1987 bans onshore facilities, as Jessica mentioned. There's no industrial space, obviously, in the city to do this, so it was symbolic. And Capitola's ordinance was not included in a lawsuit by the oil industry. Next slide, please. But there was a lawsuit. 13 communities were targeted by Western Oil and Gas Association. The case was heard in 1987, the 10th District Court of California. They ruled in favor of local governments, and that decision was upheld by the appeals court. Next slide, please. San Luis Obispo County actually had an actual onshore facility that was proposed, and under their ordinance there, it went to a vote of the people. Shell Oil lost after spending $20 per vote. And next slide, please. As a result, they abandoned their offshore operation. So as a result of this loss, the oil industry went back to the Supreme Court, or went to the Supreme Court and said, hey, we lost something here. Would you could reconsider the appeals court decision? The Supreme Court said, no, we're not going to do that. So the ordinances stand. Next slide, please. So now I'll turn it over to Katie Thompson to talk about next steps.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, so you can see through what Dan has been telling us that these land use ordinances are a really key picture and tool that local jurisdictions have to fight against offshore oil drilling, which we from the coast seem far away, but we have the tools here that we can implement. And so we saw that back in the 80s, and we've seen it prove true under the first Trump administration that these local ordinances, because we have that blue wall, that's this automatic deterrent by the oil industry to actually develop here. So now we're looking at Save Our Shores, we're working with the city and the county of Santa Cruz to improve the legal defensibility of those ordinances, considering they were developed nearly 40 years ago. So a lot has changed. So looking at those changes, trying to make sure they're defensible as ever, related to offshore oil drilling. And then there's a second element, new threats. So for example, seabed mining. So we're not only strengthening against those protections against offshore oil, but also adding in, being more proactive and adding in future threats such as seabed mining. And now seabed mining, just to make clear, is on a separate track from the 5-year plan where you're thinking about today. But it is coming. The federal government has signaled that they want to develop seabed mining. So again, we're working with the city and the county of Santa Cruz to strengthen those ordinances. And we've received attention from jurisdictions from all across the state who want to strengthen those ordinances. I'm hoping that Capitola also considers strengthening theirs against offshore oil, and then again, looking at seabed mining being very proactive. Next slide. And so this is a detailed diagram of what actually happens during seabed mining. Again, it's a new technology. There's many environmental threats that it poses. It has damage. It can damage the ecosystems at all different levels. It essentially scrapes the seafloor, picking up metals that are then brought to shore, and then processed, wreaking havoc on ecosystems. And then within our own ecosystem here in Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, Davis and Seamount could be a target for these types of mining activities. So again, using these ordinances as a tool, setting up that layer of protection on land, using the tools we have here as local jurisdiction, is a really key part of the fight. And I applaud Capitola for being one of the first back in the 80s, and I'm excited to see what kind of steps we can take together to continue to improve that. I think that's it. Yes, so the recommended action is for the mayor to submit a letter opposing BOEM's 11th National Outer Continental Shelf Oil and Gas Leasing Program. Thanks, and feel free to reach out if you want to learn more.
Great, thank you for the report. We'll take it to council for any questions. To our staff, when do we anticipate the coordinated response with other local jurisdictions in terms of the language to strengthen and add to our ordinance for seabed mining?
So correct me if I'm wrong, Katie, but it's my understanding that the county and city of Santa Cruz have just started that effort. And so they don't have their ordinances revised yet, but I would anticipate working on our ordinance after they've kind of worked through the kinks of theirs to have something that's consistent throughout the county.
Cool. I would like to ask the council to consider amending the recommended action to add that this item return to the city council once the coordinated response is in place, so we can strengthen our ordinance to include protections against seabed mining.
Well, I agree. I'll admit I got a little confused at the beginning of looking at this item. So tonight, all we're doing is adopting a resolution that's going to deal with the leasing of the land. We're not actually looking at changing our ordinance, so that would have to come back to us at a later date. And I absolutely would like to see when it comes back that we look at including seabed mining and that new technology in our ordinance, as well as oil drilling. So I agree.
As a minor point of clarification, this evening, the proposed action is to authorize the mayor to submit a comment letter regarding proposed changes to federal rules.
I was hoping to also but mention of reaffirming our existing ordinance.
Any other questions? All right.
Should we make,
I'm going to go to public comment real quick. Any public comments? Feel free to come on down. We love young faces in the audience. Thank you for being here.
Hello, good evening. I'm 16 years old and I'm a junior at Harbor High. I'm a liaison this year for the city of Capitola. I'm here to represent my peers, make sure our voices are heard, and get my peers involved in local government. Now, I believe offshore drilling in California is a bad idea because it puts our environment and communities at risk. California's coast is one of the most beautiful, so an oil spill could seriously harm marine life like fish, birds, and sea mammals. This could also take a very long time to recover. On top of that, drilling locks us into more fossil fuel use at a time when we should be investing in clean, renewable energy. I think offshore drilling in California is not worth the risk, and I am strongly against it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Welcome.
Hi, good evening, City Council members. I'm Paula Bradley. Thank you for taking action by submitting a letter to the BOEM regarding their proposed 11th National Outer Continental Shelf Oil and Gas Leasing Program and opposing offshore drilling. This program is one of the federal government's efforts to dismantle all environmental protections, including for safe water, safe drinking water, clean air, and any environmental protection, promoting corporate greed and profit, not people. Please oppose oil drilling and seabed mining in the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary that many people fought for years a hard battle to create. We need to continue to focus on alternative energy development, not fossil fuel development, which is the biggest contributor to increasing carbon emissions and greenhouse gases, accelerating worldwide climate devastation. Oceans are already collapsing all over the world, with ocean warming and sea level rising, and treating the ocean as a garbage dump, not as a valuable resource to protect. Oil companies do not want to take responsibility for their impact on the environment and only do so if forced by law and public pressure. Capitola is only a small corner of the Central Coast, but it is a part of a region of exceptional ecological, cultural, and economic value, and our waters support diverse marine life that we all want to see continue into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Morgana Johnson, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Surfrider Foundation Santa Cruz Policy Committee. I want to begin by thanking the City of Capitola for its longstanding commitment to protecting our coastlines. Capitola's offshore drilling ban is one of the strongest in California. It's an outright ban, and it places the city firmly within the Blue Wall, a network of 27 coastal communities that have chosen to protect their residents, beaches, and marine ecosystems from the risk of offshore drilling development. These laws have mattered. They've helped safeguard our coast for decades, and when similar ordinances were challenged by the oil industry in the past, they held up. But as we know, current pressures of offshore drilling and currently don't disappear, and neither do the legal challenges. That's why it's important that Capitola periodically review its ordinance and ensure it remains legally strong and responsive to current and emerging threats, like we're facing right now. We encourage the city to consider addressing seabed mining in addition, an emerging industrial threat that could disrupt marine habitats and coastal processes. Including this issue now is a proactive step that reflects Capitola's history and thoughtful coastal stewardship. On behalf of Surfrider Santa Cruz, we stand in support of the City of Capitola's leadership and urge you to continue strengthening local coastal protections, reaffirm the offshore drilling ban, and ensure Capitola remains a strong part of California's Blue Wall. Capitola's coast is absolutely worth protecting, not just today, but for generations to come. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Darcy Connell, and I'm a Capitola resident, and I'm the co-chair of the Surfrider Foundation Santa Cruz chapter. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Surfrider is a nonprofit dedicated to the protection and enjoyment of our oceans, waves, and beaches. Our chapter is deeply invested in keeping our local coastlines healthy and clean for the community to enjoy. I'm here to urge the City of Capitola to continue its strong stance against offshore drilling and strengthen its role in the Blue Wall. Capitola's ordinance banning onshore facilities for offshore development is a critical line of defense for our coastlines, particularly as the government looks at new drilling sites. Offshore drilling threatens our beaches, marine ecosystems, our coastal economy, and way of life. Strengthening and reviewing Capitola's ordinance helps ensure it remains legally sound and prepared for new emerging threats like seabed mining. We strongly encourage the Council to oppose offshore drilling and strengthen its existing protections. Your leadership plays an important role, not just for Capitola, but California's entire coast. Thank you for your leadership in protecting our coast.
Thank you. Hi, welcome.
How's everyone today? Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name's Alexis. I'm here representing Assemblymember Don Addis, who represents the 30th Assembly District, which is nearly 20% of our state's coastline. And Assemblymember Addis sends her best regards and thanks you for considering this today and having it on your agenda. So Assemblymember Addis serves as co-chair of the California Legislative Central Coast Caucus and is the speaker appointed to the Ocean Protection Council and a member of the advisory committee for the National Chumash Marine Sanctuary. Like everyone speaking here today, her love for the coast and ocean is lifelong and deeply rooted, but is also grounded in facts. California's coast and oceans are economic engines, especially at a time when the federal government is attacking our coast and our California budget. Together, California's coastal and ocean sectors generate over $51 billion annually and support more than 500,000 jobs. Yet for the first time in 40 years, we're facing a push to expand offshore oil drilling. Assemblymember Addis has made it clear that our California coast is not for sale. That's why she, alongside her colleagues, formally requested the Secretary of the Interior to remove California from any offshore drilling plans. And on January 6th, at a press conference, she introduced AB 1536, the Save Our Shores Act, to further protect California's coastline from offshore oil drilling. This legislation continues to work to safeguard our coast, strengthen our economy, and protect our communities, especially as Californians are still recovering from the climate-driven disasters like the one that Los Angeles faced last year. California has always led, from grassroots advocates to leaders across parties. Protecting our coast is part of who we are. And today, Assemblymember Addis stands with you because our ocean, our health, and our future are worth fighting for. So thank you, members of the council, for considering this, and she hopes that you all move forward to adopt this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to speak? All right, I'll take it back to council.
Just a quick comment. Just want to thank all the speakers and thank you and a shout out to Dan and Katie for your leadership on this. Thank you very much.
A comment. Last night, Dan and Katie came and presented to the COE, the Commission on the Environment. It was a little more in depth. It was appreciated. And we spoke about agendizing sea mining at our next Commission on the Environment. So I just wanted to pass that on. Great. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Dan and Katie for your leadership and your decades of working on this, Dan. I also want to recognize Cosette for coming. She is our Capitola Youth Liaison through the Youth Action Network and my mentee. And one of her goals this year is to improve her public speaking. And so I challenged her to come to council meetings at least once every month to make a comment. And here she is. So thank you for being here. I think we all agree, you know, as a coastal town, we take pride in the natural beauty that is Capitola and our environment. And we have to show up to fight for the health and safety of our ocean and our coastal ecosystems. We have to support the science that's pointing out the detrimental effects of climate change and sea level rise. We've seen this ourselves in the 2023 storm that destroyed our Capitola Wharf. Offshore drilling trades long-term environmental and community well-being for short-term energy consumption and corporate profits. I don't think there's much more to say. I think we all agree that we support this effort to strengthen the blue wall and look forward to the language to come back so we can strengthen our ordinance.
I'll make a motion for the mayor to sign the letter as recommended.
I'll second it.
Can I make that friendly amendment for it to come back? And do I need to make that amendment?
I don't think you do.
No. Okay. Great. Thank you.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. That is exciting stuff. Yeah. All right. Moving on to 8B. Support for the Santa Cruz County Regional Transportation Commission direction on coastal rail trail segments 10 and 11.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. This is part update on this project and part asking for approval of a resolution to support it. Next slide, please. So for those of you just turning in, the Santa Cruz County Regional Transportation Commission owns and manages the Santa Cruz Branch Rail Line. So that is the railroad. They also lead the planning for the coastal rail trail in coordination with local jurisdictions such as the county and the city of Santa Cruz, who are building out the rail trail. Up on your screen is segments 10 in green and 11 in purple that go through the city of Capitola, notably with the trestle dashed out there. It is not currently part of the project. Next slide, please. So as you all know, we have our municipal code chapter 8.72, formerly known as Measure L, that has some requirements over using the rail corridor within the city limits. We had a meeting here in April of last year where the council confirmed that the rail trail must be built within that rail corridor and not on the city property or right of way, and that the city maintains the authority over its own streets, sidewalks, and bike paths. Next slide, please. So the RTC at their regular meeting at December 4th had an item where some of their outcomes and actions regarding segments 9 through 11 of the rail trail was to move towards constructing the interim trail. If you're not familiar, what they were calling the ultimate trail was a bike and ped path adjacent to the rail line. We talked a bit about the inland versus coast side alignment. Those were all part of the ultimate trail configurations. The interim trail involves taking out the rail tracks and ties and putting the pathway in the corridor on top of that old rail line path. They directed their staff to move forward with advancing that interim trail design and constructing that, to pause doing the ultimate trail, to pursue revising the agreements that they have with the county and the city of Santa Cruz, who are constructing and leading those projects. And then also within those motions was to evaluate the Capitola Trestle, either as part of this project or within a subsequent project in the future. Next slide, please. So in your agenda packet was a resolution for support of these actions from the RTC. This does express the council's support for that direction of the interim trail and communicates the city position. It does not, however, commit the city to any funding, design, schedule, authorizing construction or any kind of permits. All of those things would be back to the council prior to any of those actions happening. Next slide, please. The next steps for the RTC staff, well, they will be returning to the RTC with their proposals to pursue the interim trail. Your staff will be continuing to monitoring and coordinate with RTC and county staff as appropriate. And again, there is no fiscal impact to these actions, and any agreements or funding would come back to you for approval at a later date. The recommended action is on the screen, and I'm available for any questions.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Clark, question?
No questions.
Councilmember Orbach?
I'm just curious how much it costs to retrofit the trestle?
So that's undetermined. There's actually quite a few studies that need to be done prior to evaluating it for trail use. There's different ways to evaluate the trail, either for train use or for rail use that has to do with seismic stability. Not all of those have been done, but it is in the many, many millions of dollars.
Thank you.
Questions?
No questions at this time.
Any questions? Okay, great. We'll take this to the public. Any comments on this item? Come on down. Welcome back.
Paula Bradley. Like many people, I would like a multi-use trail, including on the Capitola Trestle. Supporting the RTC December 4th actions seems like a positive idea. However, the RTC is risking federal rail funding if the tracks are removed. The RTC has stated that they will look into options to keep the tracks with the interim trail, but removing the tracks is still on the table. A decision to remove the tracks instead of keeping them will put our progress in the federal corridor ID program or federal funding for future rail service at risk. At the December meeting, Caltrans staff gave a presentation about the federal corridor ID program. Santa Cruz is part of the Central Coast Corridor, only one of 5 rail projects in the state that qualified for the program. The granting agency has affirmed that all 5 California rail corridors will advance to the next phase, step 2 of the program, the Service Development Plan, and this is fully funded by state and federal grants. If we remove or cover the rails, the agency could consider our rail project as failing to make progress, and we would not be competitive for step 3 of the program. By completing step 3, our rail system could be eligible to apply for 80% federal grants for final engineering and construction. I'm concerned that the Corridor ID program has been downplayed in all of the talk about the overblown $4.3 billion cost estimate. It was barely mentioned. Instead, we should be celebrating this program to fund our rail service. The Coastal Rail Trail project benefits the entire county and beyond, including the economy, the environment, by reducing greenhouse gases, as we are mandated to do, and benefits the health of residents. I'm a cyclist and would like a great recreational trail, but not at the expense of losing the rail corridor for public transportation. Not everyone can ride a bike or drive a car, and fewer younger people desire car ownership. With all the new and planned higher density housing and efficient public transportation system, including an electric passenger train, is more critical than ever. Our Coastal Rail Trail project has consistent voter and widespread support in Capitola and Santa Cruz County. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
I'm in support of the city supporting this resolution. I just wanted to remind the city council of 2 facts to make sure that they're aware of them. Number one is the fact that in the, I believe it was the March or April meeting last year, when the RTC was presented with the initial estimate of replacing replacing the 33 bridges that the entire project entails was going to exceed $1 billion, which at that point, of course, got the public's attention. One of the commissioners very wisely asked Sarah Christensen, what percentage of the current rail ties are usable and which percentage would have to be removed before any rail service could be put in place. Obviously, that's a real challenge for RTC with the grant, but her answer, just to remind you, was 95% of the rail tiles are unusable. So therefore, the current approach of the RTC, and hopefully they can get the state to understand, is they might as well pull them up anyway because they're of no use. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? All right, we'll come back to council for comments, deliberation.
I would just like to publicly give a shout out to the RTC staff and to my fellow commissioners that have worked very hard on this issue in trying, I think, unite and bring our community back together off of a very sensitive subject that has divided our community for many years. And so I just wanted to, again, give a shout out to them, how hard they all are working at this present time.
Thank you.
Well, I'm very much in favor of moving forward with the interim trail. I appreciate the work that the RTC has done, and their staff seems to be quite knowledgeable about how to proceed with this. So I have ultimate confidence that they're going to come up with a solution that will work the best. So I'm in support of adopting the resolution expressing support.
Is that a motion?
I'll make
I'd
that
like
a
to comment
motion.
first.
Yeah, go for it.
This has been a long time coming. I'm grateful to where we're at. Applaud the RTC and our own councilman who had a lot to do with behind, making this happen. And Jerry Jensen was out there for Capitola, so it's really nice to see this coming together. Definitely in support.
Is that a second?
That will be a second.
Great. May we please have a roll call?
Councilmember Clark,
Aye.
Councilmember Orbach,
No.
Councilmember Westman,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Definitely.
and Mayor Morgan.
Aye. Passes 4-1. We'll move on to item C, 8C, Introduction to Discover Capitola. Welcome, Chloe.
Thank you so much, Mayor Morgan and Council. This shouldn't take too long. I'm going to provide an overview of our newly branded civic engagement program, Discover Capitola, that will be taking place this February and March. So, as you may already know, but what we should, just for context, recognize, civic engagement programs are really best practice and are common in most cities and certainly in our neighboring jurisdictions. So their purpose is to foster and encourage an informed community so that there's more involvement and it strengthens our lines of communication, not only as staff, but for City Council to feel comfortable speaking with the community. And the hopeful outcome is that those that participate in these programs learn more about how decisions are made, how our city budget works, how departments work together, and really just how the city works with our partner agencies. So it's kind of behind the scenes. And like I mentioned, we've now rebranded ours as Discover Capitola. We have typically offered this program, I will admit, I don't know how many years, but for a long time. And by design, it is offered in election years, so the even years. There was a question from council to look into perhaps a smaller, shorter version, every year, and there was not community appetite for such a thing. Our program generally includes guest speakers from our partner agencies. In the past, we've had people from the school district, the library, Central Fire, those type of our partners speak to offer a greater understanding that the city is within a larger community and has many partners, and is intended as an offering for our stakeholders, business owners, residents. We have an application process, but we're really trying to be welcoming to anyone that is interested in learning more about Capitola. So that brings us to this year's session. I'm really excited. It's just getting started next month. So we have 4 sessions. They all begin at 6 p.m., so outside of work hours to make it more accessible for the community. They take place right here across the lobby in our community room. And the 4 sessions are laid out here in front of you. I won't read the screen, but the intent when developing this curriculum was really to make this fun, engaging, interesting, and different than it has been in past years. So even those that may have taken it will learn something new. So we're starting with Capitola 101, State of the City. Our mayor will be there to welcome participants. We'll move into public safety, where I'm very excited for our police chief to speak and to also show how we partner with Central Fire. And if we're lucky, we'll get a tour of the police department.
I see there's a nod, so yes, we're doing that. Great. We'll move into local business. So we have our BIA partners and our Chamber of Commerce that are willing to speak to participants, which is amazing. We haven't done that in the past, so I'm very excited. And then we'll end with thinking about our community identity. Our historical museum curator will speak. We'll learn about all of our wonderful youth programming with our recreation and community services department, and then hear from the director of the libraries, who is lovely, and I'm so excited to hear him speak. So I will be there for all four. I'm excited about it. We are welcoming applications through January 28th, and I'm very excited and proud to announce we have at least 20. My goal was 15, so we've surpassed it. And everyone that participates will be celebrated by City Council at the March 26th meeting. So the QR code on the screen takes you right to the application if anyone's interested. And it's also easily accessible on our website. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
This is excellent. Thank you, Chloe, for all the hard work. Do we have any questions?
Is this the largest group, 20 applicants?
I would have to defer to our city manager on that. Thank you for the question.
I think it's the second largest. During the pandemic, I think it was 21 or 22 in there. I think everyone was we did it entirely virtually. And I think everyone was so eager to get out of their houses or do something like this. And I think we may have had around 25, but the application period is still open, so we still exceed that number.
Make it the largest yet. So.
Is there a limit in terms of the number of people we are admitting? No. Okay, great. Is there an age limit?
There is not an age limit, and I did send this in promoting the program to Yan for our youth liaisons, and if anyone is interested, I think it would be wonderful for an engaged high school student, for example, to attend. There might be legal.
But to be clear, we do have a policy about youth participation, and those who are under 18 are required to have a adult supervision, so that the city isn't looking after minors. We're not certified to do that. I mean, we have people that are, but
So the follow-up question is, does the parent need to also apply then?
that would probably be best practice.
Great. A couple questions I have. I attended it a couple years back. So just to go over, so what I really appreciated was the overview of the interaction between our city and other agencies. So like with the school district, is the city just going to be given the overview, or will somebody from the school district be here?
The city will give an overview in the first session of how we partner with all agencies. They're not scheduled to present.
One recommendation would be is maybe if SoCal Water District could, because I think it's so instrumental with what they're coming online with their pure water. I think it has a lot to do with the question I hear about development and what water demand is for development. And I think it might help clarify a lot of the misunderstandings about water supply and so they might be able to come and really speak to that issue maybe a little bit better than I think maybe a staff overview. The next thing, another suggestion would be that one thing that I really appreciated when I went through it was the Public Works outreach day when they went over and they talked about, and it's kind of a little bit funny in the sense about how the beach gets made. But I mean, it does affect our whole local economy during the summer. And I think it was really meaningful to know how the sand comes back in and how, we dam up and why we do. And why does everybody see a guy in there counting fish at the end of the season and stuff. And I think that just shows the dedication to our community for how the beach gets built and then also what the environmental impacts are and stuff like that. And then also, one thing I also think would be important, are you going to talk about the roles and responsibilities? I know some of our maybe future council people, members will be coming out of this. Is there be an overview and what the overall general expectation is of city council, what it looks like and stuff like that?
Yes.
Yeah, that will be, okay, great, thank you. And I think just also emphasizing the different, planning commission or arts commission, stuff like that. So if those are all going to be addressed, I think it's going to be great to, it sounds like, get another 20 people that are interested in our community to learn about it. So thank you for spearheading this very much, Chloe.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for doing this. Thank the city for doing it. I think the more people know about Capitola and how government works, the better off we all are as we try and work together as a community to make things happen in the future.
Great. Thanks, Chloe. I will go to public comment on this item. I don't see any. So we have received the report. Thank you so much. Item 8D, temporary hourly employee pay schedule. Welcome, Jim.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I was going to say last item, but I think we have one more after this. So, second to last item. Tonight will be the temporary hourly employee pay schedule. Next slide, please. Temporary employees provide community services in multiple departments, but primarily in the community service and recreation department. These employees are not benefited employees. They do not belong to a labor group, union, and are not represented by a memorandum of understanding. Next slide, please. As a reminder, California minimum wage increased from $16.50 to $16.90 on January 1st of this year. Our recreation facility assistant position is our entry level, like lowest entry level position is tied to that, with the first step of the salary schedule being $16.51 right now. So currently that first step is below minimum wage. And then the other positions within that pay schedule are all driven off of that, so that there's separation based on job responsibilities and promotional opportunities and all of that good stuff. Next slide, please. So the proposed adjustment what is 2.49%, which is based on the San Francisco Bay Area CPI. This helps maintain some equity throughout the whole pay schedule and also among other agencies within the region, and also maintains compliance with California minimum wage law. Just to point out, I didn't mention this earlier, we don't currently have anyone in that first step, so we aren't currently in violation of California minimum wage. The person that's in that position is at a higher step. This was continued from December 11th, and at the 11th meeting, you asked us to return this evening to discuss streamlining this particular process, clarifying some of the language about offering cost of living adjustments to the seasonal employees, and provide the regional comparisons. As far as streamlining, it's really kind of a best management practice that any changes to compensation go before the board, whether that's on the consent agenda or through a public hearing. It just provides better accountability and transparency. So as far as streamline, we can look at other ways, but at this point, I would recommend just leaving it on the consent, and then you always have the ability to pull it off if there's additional questions. Next slide, please. As far as the cost of living adjustment, that was actually anticipated as we were putting together the proposed budget last spring. We anticipated about a 2.5% increase to seasonal wages. We, at that point, set our fees for the programs in which those employees work to account for that 2.49% increase. So really, if we didn't do the cost of living increase, then as we go through this next budget cycle, we need to take a hard look at our fees, because if we're not increasing the cost, then we might need to ratchet those fees back down to be in line with kind of cost neutral programming for youth programs. Next slide, please. This does keep us competitive regionally. There was, in the staff report, I mentioned that Santa Cruz is going to be increasing by 4% in March. I had that incorrect. They actually increased last October and will be increasing again this coming October. So the schedule that I showed in the comparison schedule in the staff report is actually the rates that Santa Cruz will be paying throughout the summer. They won't be increasing March like was stated in the staff report. So we are closer than it originally looked at this point. So the estimated cost for this total on a calendar year, since we do this in January, is $17,000. That cost is basically split in half at $8,500 each for each fiscal year. It was anticipated in the current fiscal year 25-26 budget. If approved, then we would incorporate that into the 26-27 budget. But again, Santa Cruz is raising, so we'll probably be going through this exercise again a year from now because we'll be kind of out of alignment with them. Next slide, please. If approved, this would become effective January 18th, which was this past Sunday, which is the first pay period of the current pay cycle that we're in. Alternatively, council could direct us to go retroactive to January 4th, which would be the first pay period following the new minimum wage, or following the increase to minimum wage. And there are no new classifications this year in the pay schedule. Those are all existing classifications. So the recommended action is to adopt a resolution amending the temporary hourly employee pay schedule. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions?
So you said the fiscal impact was $17,000, and most of that will be covered by the programs?
Correct. We set the fees to cover the anticipated cost of living increase.
Great.
I just have a question. When will we be evaluating fees? I mean, one thing I think we all are very much advocate for is what programs cost and the needs of people in our community. Maybe they can't afford these. And I was wondering if it ever gets to a point that we're pricing ourselves out with our fees to offset salaries and that we have to look at a different take on that.
We will look at the fees each year as part of the budget adoption process. So I typically will bring fees probably the second budget hearing. This year we'll start looking at fees.
Thank you.
So the only decision that we really need to make is whether we want to make this effective January 4th or January 18th.
In theory, you could increase just we don't have anyone in that. So in the past, when we've run into fiscal challenges like the pandemic, when the storm drain broke, when full-time employees have taken concessions, then we've held back on this. So we don't necessarily have to. We're not in violation of the law. If we were going to hire a recreation facility assistant right now, we would have to bring him in at least step 2 or the second step of the pay schedule. But we have 35 seasonal employees right now that are on payroll. Probably 30 of them are actively working. 9 of them are at the top step. So this is really the only increase they will see throughout the calendar year.
Thank you.
Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll take it back.
Yeah. So one thing I just want to make a comment. I appreciate all the hard work from our employees and all the seasonal workers. The item of $17,000 does seem like a number that is something that's manageable, and I appreciate that our finance department with our city manager has made, in planning for the budget, that's identified. But we have at our town hall meetings seen, projections that we could be possibly in a deficit. At the same time, we haven't had our mid-year budget update. And so with that, I would make a motion that we would approve this adjustment. And I'm open to what exact date, but to make sure we can offset the cost, I'd propose to our council that we would forego our training and travel budget that's allocated to each one of the members here. I think that amount is approximately $3,000. And so, is that correct?
Yes, 3,000 each, so a total of 15.
Yeah, so I don't know if anybody's using any, but as effective tonight, anything any of those fees would be suspended to help offset in case we get to our mid-year and we're upside down or something. At least it shows leadership in that we would help fund this if there is a potential more deficit. So that would be my motion, and be open to hearing comments and about the exact time that we would implement it.
Well, I would be willing to second it if we made it effective on January 4th.
I can accept that.
Great. We have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Clark?
Aye.
Councilmember Orbach?
Aye.
Councilmember Westman?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Johnson?
Aye.
And Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Passes unanimously. Great job. And we will take it back to item 7F.
Thank you, Mayor, and I apologize that this item caused confusion. So for some context, I'm sorry, attacking our city attorney here. For some context for the public and for council, the item on your agenda is a use agreement for Capitola City Hall Community Room with the Capitola BIA. So this was designed to be a win-win for city staff and the BIA. They're a nonprofit that partners with the city, and the use agreement as written and in your packet would allow them use of the community room for their board meetings and planning their seasonal events for the next 3 years at no fee. Original language in the packet did state that if at any time city council imposed a fee for anyone to use the community room during this 3-year contract, the BIA would then have to pay that fee as well if that happened. However, that was unacceptable, and so that language was removed, which is why there was additional materials with an updated use agreement that was submitted and published yesterday, I believe. So I'm happy to answer any questions. If the city manager thinks I missed anything, he can jump in, but that is the basics. Thank you.
By way of clarification, I believe that the update that we agreed to with the BIA was that should the city in the future ever impose a fee for the use of the community room, BIA would have the option to terminate immediately.
Correct.
Is that correct? So yeah. And at this point, there is no proposal for a fee for the community room. It was just a provision that was added there. I believe you received some public comment about Beach Festival. We offered the Beach Festival the same contract. It was really intended to help facilitate them being able to make long-term planning around use of our facility, be able to sort of reserve it for multiple years in a row. Ran into a hiccup around the indemnity language, the insurance language, and we continue to work with them, try to work through to figure out how best to do that. And just to note that we do actually require insurance for anyone. We do have them attest that they have the insurance, even outside of the agreements for other folks who are using the room. So it isn't a new requirement. And we're happy to work with the Beach Festival. They're great partners, obviously put on a wonderful event. And this was intended to kind of streamline the process for some of the nonprofits that we already contract with for services in the city. Beach Festival, the BIA, Chamber of Commerce, if they're interested. Hope that helps.
Questions?
I don't have any questions right now. I think it's clear now that this really was intended as an agreement between the city and the BIA to facilitate what they wanted to do. And I appreciate the city being willing to make amendments that the BIA asked for to make this workable for them.
I appreciate the clarification.
Thank you.
Take this to public comment. Welcome.
Based on Jamie's comment, I'd like to see the city then come out with if they're going to have a second general contract for all of the nonprofits. If this is you're only talking tonight about the contract from the city and the BIA for the community room, then I think the city council, I think you need to come back to the city council with either the same agreement that applies to all nonprofits or however you're going to address that so that it can be addressed at that point. Because right now the beach, unless I'm incorrect, which I know we have a general liability, but as I said, we went to our insurance company, looked at what you guys were requesting. It was going to cost us another $1,000 a year for that additional insurance just to go and sit in the room for 2 hours once a month. I think that's a little excessive. So I'd like the staff and the city council to review that. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I'd make a motion.
I'd move the recommended action.
Did Joe second? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Either first or second, or whichever one.
Okay.
We got 2. Let's get 5. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. That will bring us to item 9, adjournment. Have a good evening. Be kind to yourself and one another.